Alarms blared across the Galactic Federation's most advanced monitoring station as something impossible tore through subspace. Senior analyst Varric's six eyes widened in disbelief as the massive vessel's silhouette resolved on screen, all harsh angles and armored plating, bristling with weapon systems unlike anything in Federation records. Containment protocols activated, the station AI announced in its melodic voice, utterly incongruous with the emergency unfolding before them. Varric's slender fingers danced across the crystalline control panel. Magnify Sector 7, enhance resolution. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing more details of the intruder. Unlike the smooth, organic curves of Federation ships, this vessel was a monument to brutalist design, functional, intimidating, and unmistakably built for war. Unknown vessel configuration. Junior analyst Trell noted, her feathered crest flattening in alarm. No match in Galactic database. The station's AI identified antiquated radio transmissions emanating from the ship in a language believed extinct. Human English. Varric froze, tendrils curling in shock. The Federation Council had written off humanity as a footnote in galactic history, a primitive species that destroyed itself before achieving true spaceflight. That's impossible, Varric whispered. Earth was lost in the Cataclysm Wars. Their technology was primitive. They barely reached their own moon. The intruder's engines pulsed with energy signatures that defied Federation understanding. Not the clean quantum resonance of modern drives, but something raw and powerful that left rippling distortions in the fabric of space. "We're being scanned," Trell announced, her voice rising in pitch. "They're using directed tachyon bursts." That technology was theoretical in our research divisions. Before Varric could process this revelation, the intruder broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Retribution. We've come home." The message played in perfect galactic standard, then repeated in 17 distinct alien languages, including 3 that were considered extinct. The translation quality was flawless, indicating sophisticated linguistic algorithms, or, more disturbingly, long-term observation of Federation communications. "Patch me through to Central Command," Varric ordered, his professional demeanor cracking. "Priority Alpha." Unable to comply, the AI responded. "All quantum communication channels are experiencing interference." On the screen, the human vessel adjusted its position, maneuvering with surprising grace for something so massive. Close-range scans revealed battle damage across its hull, not recent incidents but old wounds, expertly repaired. This ship had seen combat, survived it, and continued its mission. The transmission continued. "We request an immediate audience with the Federation Council. Coordinates for rendezvous follow." A string of numbers appeared across the bottom of the screen, identifying a position in neutral space, exactly 1 light day from the Federation capital. "Threat assessment," Varric asked, already knowing the answer. The AI calculated for 3.7 seconds, an eternity for a quantum mind. "Unknown vessel possesses weapon systems capable of planetary devastation. Drive signature indicates FTL capabilities exceeding current Federation technology by approximately 37%. Hull composition includes elements not found in charted space." Trell's feathers molted in stress, a biological response her species had evolved to prepare for immediate flight. "Should we broadcast Federation surrender protocols?" Varric considered this with all 4 lobes of his brain. No, he decided finally. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't announce themselves. The final part of the transmission played, ending with a chilling promise. "You'll want to hear what we have to say. The alternative is extinction." The message ended, leaving the monitoring station in stunned silence. Outside, stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the paradigm shift occurring within the galaxy. Humanity, the species that should not exist, had returned from the dead, and they had come in a ship built for war. Varric made his decision. "Prepare my shuttle. I'll deliver this information to the Council personally." Some news was too important, too dangerous, for standard channels. As he gathered his data crystals, Varric glanced once more at the imposing silhouette on the main viewer. The ship hung against the void like a predator waiting to strike. Patient, powerful, and terrifyingly deliberate. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kilara, decorated veteran of border skirmishes and diplomat extraordinaire, paced the crystalline bridge of the Federation flagship * Eternal Harmony *. Each step betrayed her tension as her vessel approached the human warship. 22 years of service had not prepared her for this moment, an encounter with the ghosts of a civilization believed extinct. "We're within visual range, Admiral," announced her first officer, Commander Elzin, his translucent skin pulsing with nervous bioluminescence. "On screen," Kilara ordered, straightening her ceremonial cape of office. The UES Retribution loomed against the starscape, a scared behemoth that made the Federation's most powerful military vessels look like pleasure yachts. Where Federation ships were elegant sculptures of light and biomechanical harmony, this human vessel was a fortress forged from metal and determination. Its hull bore the marks of battle survived: patches of discolored alloy, reinforced sections, and what appeared to be hastily retrofitted weapon systems of diverse origins. "Scans complete, Admiral," the science officer reported, her tentacles twitching in agitation. "Their technology, it's impossible." Kilara reviewed the data with mounting concern. The scans revealed technology that shouldn't exist: impossibly efficient fusion reactors, hull alloys that seemed to absorb sensor sweeps, and weapon systems that remained powered but dormant, a predator with its claws sheathed, but ready. "Their engines incorporate principles from at least 3 distinct galactic civilizations," the science officer continued, "including Virex technology." A hush fell over the bridge. The Virex had vanished from the galaxy 3 millennia ago, taking their technological secrets with them. The Federation's historical archives describe humans as barely capable of reaching their own moon, Elzin whispered. Yet this vessel has clearly crossed vast interstellar distances and survived encounters we cannot imagine. "Open a channel," Kilara ordered, adjusting her translator implant. "Federation protocols demand we attempt peaceful communication." The view screen shifted, revealing the bridge of the human vessel. Unlike the Federation's spacious, aesthetically pleasing command centers, the Retribution's bridge was compact, utilitarian, and darkly lit, designed for function over form. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency between stations that appeared to be a hodgepodge of technologies, unified by human ingenuity. When Captain Chen's figure materialized into focus, the Federation crew gasped. The human stood tall despite a cybernetic eye and scarred face that spoke of survival against impossible odds. Her uniform was neat but utilitarian, bearing symbols and insignia unknown to Federation databases. Most striking was her posture, alert, confident, and unmistakably military. "Admiral," Chen nodded with unnerving familiarity, her organic eye evaluating Kilara with the calculation of a tactician. "I expected the Federation to send politicians. I'm pleased they sent a warrior instead." Kilara bristled at the casual presumption. "I am Admiral Kilara of the Galactic Federation. Your vessel has entered sovereign space without authorization. The species you claim to represent is listed as extinct in our archives." A cold smile touched Chen's lips. "Extinction is a matter of perspective, Admiral. We survived. We adapted. We evolved." "How is this possible?" Kilara asked, professional composure momentarily slipping. "Earth was rendered uninhabitable. Our historical records—" "Your records," Chen interrupted, "are based on observations made by Federation ships that watched our world burn and did nothing." She leaned forward, the camera catching the reflection of starlight on her artificial eye. "We have much to discuss about the mistakes your people made when you abandoned Earth to die." Commander Elzin stepped forward, mandibles clicking in agitation. "This is outrageous. The Federation observes non-interference protocols with pre-spaceflight civilizations. If Earth was indeed in crisis. Save your justifications, Chen cut him off. I didn't cross half the galaxy to debate history. Her expression hardened. I came to warn you. What destroyed our homeworld is coming for yours next. Hilera felt the weight of every eye on the bridge. What threat could possibly? Request permission to dock, Chen said, her tone making it clear this was not a request but a declaration. The Council needs to hear this directly, unless you prefer comfortable ignorance to uncomfortable survival. The Admiral studied the human captain, this scared warrior from a species that should not exist, and made her decision. Permission granted, Hilera said, but your crew remains aboard your vessel. Chen's smile returned, knowing and grim. Fair enough. I only need one human to change the course of galactic history. The Federation Council chamber fell silent as Captain Chen activated a holographic display at the center of the vast amphitheater. 300 representatives from 87 species watched as the image of a blue-green world materialized, Earth as it once was, vibrant with life and potential. This is what we lost, Chen said quietly, her voice carrying through the acoustically perfect chamber. The hologram shifted, showing the same planet racked by massive energy weapons fired from orbit. Continents cracked, oceans boiled, and billions died in moments. When the cataclysm wars reached our system, your ships observed, documented, and left. She continued, her voice tight with controlled rage. The hologram showed Federation research vessels maintaining a safe distance, scanning the catastrophe. You classified us as a pre-spaceflight civilization not worth saving. Counselor Tivereth interrupted, his mandibles clicking nervously. The ancient insectoid represented the Federation's Historical Truth Committee. Our records show humanity destroyed itself in nuclear conflict. The Federation had no involvement. Chen laughed, a harsh, unsettling sound. Convenient excuse. With a gesture, she brought up Federation logs that should have been inaccessible to human systems. Your own ships recorded the attack signature. The weapons used were not human. They were Scourge technology. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as Chen continued her presentation. The hologram shifted to show underground bunkers where millions of humans survived, then to makeshift shipyards constructed in secret asteroid bases. While you wrote our epitaph, we salvaged alien tech from crashed ships, reverse-engineered FTL drives, and built our first colony vessels. Her artificial eye glowed slightly as she manipulated the display. Necessity drove innovation. Survival demanded adaptation. High Counselor Churin, the eldest of the eternal species, raised a crystalline hand. If what you claim is true, why has humanity remained hidden? The Federation would have welcomed peaceful contact. Would you welcome the survivors of your failures? Chen asked bluntly. We needed time. Time to build, to grow strong enough that you couldn't dismiss us again. The final image showed dozens of human settlements across unexplored regions, thriving industrial outposts, and a fleet of warships that dwarfed the Retribution. Members of the Council gasped at the extent of human expansion into regions considered uninhabitable. We didn't just survive, Chen said. We expanded, adapted, and prepared. Because we discovered what's coming from beyond the galactic rim. The same threat your long-range sensors have detected, but your analysts have misinterpreted. Admiral Hilera stepped forward from her position at the chamber's edge. You speak of the spatial anomalies in the Perseus sector. Our scientists believe they're natural phenomena, temporary rifts in subspace. Chen's expression hardened. They're invasion portals. She brought up new data. Readings taken by human outposts showing energy signatures identical to those that had appeared before Earth's destruction. The Scourge are returning, and this time they're coming in force. The Council erupted in voices, some dismissive, others alarmed. Chen stood unflinching amidst the chaos, until the High Counselor's amplified voice cut through the din. Even if what you say is true, Captain, what would you have us do? The Federation is founded on principles of peace. We have defensive capabilities, but nothing that could repel an invasion force of the scale you describe." Chen's smile was cold. "That's why we're here. Humanity remembers what it means to fight for survival. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment, developing weapons, tactics, and technologies specifically designed to combat the scourge." She closed the holographic display with a gesture, leaving only a stark image of Earth's scorched surface. "We offer an alliance. Your science and our warfare. Your resources and our experience." Her voice lowered. "Because make no mistake, counselors, what happened to Earth will happen to every world in this chamber if we don't act." Admiral Kilera studied the human captain's face, seeing beyond the scars and cybernetics to the determination beneath. "And if we refuse?" Chen turned, meeting the Admiral's gaze directly. "Then humanity will fight alone, as we always have. But when your worlds start falling, remember that we offered you a chance." The chamber fell silent again. In that moment, the once extinct humans held the fate of the galaxy in their scarred hands. Federation sensors aboard the research outpost at Proxima Centauri detected gravitational anomalies 12 hours after Captain Chen's warning to the Council. The station's chief scientist, Dr. Nixvala, watched with growing horror as her instruments registered impossible readings. Space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a vortex of energy that her systems couldn't properly analyze. "Contact Federation Command," she ordered, her crystalline appendages trembling. "Priority 1 emergency channel." Before her communications officer could comply, reality tore open 40,000 kilometers from the station. The scourge vessels, organic mechanical hybrids that seemed to pulse with malevolent life, poured through the rift by the dozens. They resembled massive insects made of black metal and pulsing tissue, weapons growing like tumors from their hulls. "Defensive protocols engaged," announced the station's AI as shield generators hummed to life. The outpost's modest defense systems were designed to repel asteroids and radiation, not an invasion force. The first energy blast from the lead scourge vessel shattered the station's outer shields instantly. The second disabled their communications array. Dr. Nixvala knew they had minutes at most. "Emergency beacon activated," she said, sealing the inner compartments. "All personnel to escape pods." Across the sector, Admiral Kilera watched in horrified fascination as the outpost's distress call registered on the *Eternal Harmony's * communications panel. The message ended in static after just 7 seconds. The Federation Council had convened an emergency session to debate response options. Scientists argued the impossibility of the attack pattern, diplomats suggested opening communications, and military advisors calculated evacuation timelines. Captain Chen, who had been observing silently from the chamber's periphery, finally interrupted by slamming her fist on the ornate table. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the room. "We're done talking," she stated flatly. Without waiting for permission, she activated her wrist communicator. "Retribution, initiate jump sequence to Proxima coordinates." Combat Protocol 7. High Counselor Zhren rose in protest. "Captain, you have no authority to." Chen cut him off with a gesture. "You can court-martial me if we survive." She turned to Admiral Kilera. "Are you coming, or will your people die waiting for committee approval?" The Admiral hesitated only briefly before making her decision. "Prepare 3 battle cruisers for immediate departure," she ordered her stunned aide. "Alert medical to expect casualties." The Retribution broke orbit without authorization, its engines flaring with energy signatures that made Federation sensors glitch. The jump to Proxima occurred with a precision that defied Federation physics, the massive warship disappearing into subspace without the usual preparation sequence. Kilera's smaller squadron followed 10 minutes later, arriving to find chaos beyond imagination. The research station was already a floating ruin, but the Retribution was engaged in battle with the Scourge fleet, a lone predator among predators. "Impossible," whispered Commander Elzin as they watched the human vessel execute maneuvers that should tear it apart. Their inertial dampeners couldn't possibly compensate for such stress. The Retribution danced between Scourge ships, its weapons targeting seemingly random points that caused cascading failures throughout the enemy fleet. Federation tactical officers watched in confusion as the humans ignored obvious weak points to strike at obscure junctions and nodes. Their strategy makes no sense, Elzin complained. It does to them, Keelara realized suddenly. They'd fought these creatures before. When a massive Scourge carrier rammed the Retribution, Federation observers expected annihilation. Instead, they witnessed the human ship's outer hull breach in controlled sections, followed by suited figures pouring out into space, human boarding parties using the collision as an opportunity to storm the enemy vessel. They're fighting hand-to-hand against the Scourge. Elzin's voice rose in disbelief. That's suicide. Keelara watched as the humans fought corridor by corridor in savage close combat, using weapons that seemed primitive compared to Federation technology, yet devastatingly effective against the Scourge. This is how humans wage war, Chen transmitted as her crew captured the Scourge ship, her voice calm despite the sounds of battle in the background. Now, do you want our help, or shall we leave you to philosophize while your worlds burn? The Federation fleet moved into formation behind the battered Retribution. The answer was clear. Philosophy could wait. Survival came first. Engineering teams from 7 Federation species crowded the massive docking bay, watching in fascination and horror as human technicians swarmed over Federation vessels. The humans moved with urgent efficiency, retrofitting the elegant ships with makeshift weapons systems that seemed cobbled together from disparate technologies. Chief Engineer Zhokar, whose crystalline species had built starships for 20,000 years, approached a human working on the Stellar Serenity's propulsion array. The human, a young woman with arms covered in technical interface tattoos, was bypassing safety protocols to link the vessel's quantum stabilizers directly to its weapons grid. This modification violates 13 safety regulations, Zhokar noted, his translucent body pulsing with concern. The energy feedback could destabilize the entire system. The human engineer, barely 30 years old, shrugged without looking up from her work. Safety's a luxury when extinction's on the line. She tightened a connection and added, "We ran simulations. You'll get about 15% more power to your primary weapons before critical failure." "And after critical failure?" the Federation engineer asked, alarmed. The human finally looked up, her eyes tired but determined. "You'll have approximately 3 minutes to evacuate before the core breaches." She returned to her work. "But if you fired everything you have in those 3 minutes, it might make the difference between victory and defeat." Across the station, in Strategic Command, Federation officers struggled to comprehend human battle doctrines. Admiral Keelara reviewed Captain Chen's proposed formations with growing concern. "This deployment pattern leaves our medical frigates exposed," she pointed out, indicating vulnerabilities in the holographic display. "The Scourge target weapons platforms first, support vessels last," Chen explained, manipulating the tactical projections. "They don't think like you do. They don't prioritize minimizing casualties. They prioritize neutralizing threats." Commander Elzin studied the human captain with undisguised suspicion. "And how exactly did your species acquire such detailed knowledge of Scourge tactics?" Chen's artificial eye glinted in the low light. "We've been fighting them for 50 years in the shadows while you enjoyed your peace." She adjusted the display to show a star system near the galactic rim. "We lost Titan Colony 6 years ago. 7,000 humans died holding the line while we evacuated civilians. We learned their patterns the hard way." Admiral Keelara found Captain Chen later in the ship's training facility, sparring with her crew despite her recent injuries. 2 human soldiers circled their captain, attacking from different angles while Chen defended with practiced precision. The Federation officer noticed how the humans pulled no punches. This was not ceremonial combat, but practical training. "Your council is afraid of us," Chen stated, blocking a punch without looking at the admiral. "As they should be," she added, executing a takedown that left her opponent gasping on the mat. "They're cautious," Keelara corrected, watching as Chen helped her crewmate to his feet. Humanity survived because we embrace necessary brutality when threatened. Chen responded, turning her full attention to the Admiral. You survived because you avoided conflict altogether. Different strategies for different circumstances. The Admiral observed the humans continue their training. Their movements efficient, their tactics brutal but effective. Your species lives such short lives, she noted. Perhaps this makes you fearless. Chen smiled thinly. Not fearless. We just understand that some things are worth dying for. Later that evening, as Federation and human crews prepared for their first joint operation, a Federation philosopher approached Chen in the observation lounge. Your tactical approach troubles our ethics committee, he stated. These kamikaze maneuvers you propose, they guarantee casualties. Chen offered a demonstration instead of arguing. She turned to the assembled human crew members and called out, "The first strike team will face 70% casualty rates. I need volunteers." Every human hand in the room raised immediately. The philosopher stepped back, disturbed by the unanimous response. Our strength isn't in our weapons, Chen explained quietly. It's that we'll die for people we've never met if it means others might live. Can your species claim the same? The question hung in the air as the station's alert system activated. Long-range sensors had detected more scourge vessels approaching. The time for philosophy had ended. The time for uncomfortable alliance had begun. The combined fleet assembled at the Seven Sisters Star Cluster, a strategic choke point where advanced Federation sensors detected the largest scourge armada yet approaching. 7 suns circled one another in an astronomical dance that created navigational challenges for even the most sophisticated vessels. It was here, among these gravitational maelstroms, that Captain Chen proposed making their stand. The plan is theoretically sound but practically suicidal, stated Federation Science Director Narration, as she reviewed the tactical projections. Using the gravitational fields of 7 stars to create a subspace cascade could indeed destroy the Scourge fleet, but the triggering vessel would be caught in the reaction. The holographic display showed the complex sequence. Precisely timed energy pulses directed at each star's corona would create a ripple effect that, when properly aligned, would tear a hole in the fabric of spacetime large enough to swallow the enemy fleet. Federation captains calculated a 99.7% fatality rate for any ship performing the trigger sequence. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Victory would require sacrifice. Chen volunteered the retribution immediately. My ship, my call, she stated when Admiral Keylura began to protest. We've already upgraded the automated systems. We can set the final sequence to run without a crew aboard. The timing parameters require constant adjustment, Narration countered. Your automation isn't sophisticated enough to handle the gravitational variables. Someone would need to remain on board to ensure proper execution. Chen nodded, her expression unchanging. I'm aware. The night before battle, Admiral Keylura found Chen in her quarters aboard the Retribution. The human captain sat at her desk, recording messages for her crew's families. Personal items, a worn book, a metal flask, a small wooden carving, were carefully arranged beside her. How do you face certain death so calmly? The Admiral asked from the doorway. Chen looked up, her artificial eye dimmed in the low light. She gestured to a tattered flag patch on her uniform. See this. It's Earth. Old Earth, before the Scourge came. Her fingers traced the faded pattern. Earth is gone, but humanity continues. I'm just one person. The human stood and offered Keylura a drink from the metal flask. The liquid burned the Admiral's throat but cleared her mind. In the Federation, we extend our lives through technology, Keylura said. Your willingness to sacrifice yours is difficult to comprehend. Chen smiled slightly. Living for centuries might make each day less precious. We humans pack a lot of living into our short spans. She raised her flask in a toast to making those days count. When battle commenced the following cycle, the Federation fleet engaged according to plan. evacuating civilians from nearby systems while setting the trap. The Scourge adapted faster than predicted, nearly breaking through defensive lines along the fourth sister star. The Retribution sustained catastrophic damage executing complex maneuvers to maintain the gravitational alignment. Its hull glowed from weapons impacts and the intense radiation from the nearby stars. Federation observers watched in awe as the human vessel continued functioning despite damage that would have disabled any of their ships. They've reinforced their structural integrity fields beyond safety specifications, Narration noted with professional admiration. The power requirements alone should overload their systems. Systems failed one by one aboard the Retribution as radiation flooded the bridge. Captain Chen remained at her post, manually adjusting the firing sequence as automated systems shut down around her. Blood trickled from her nose and ears as the radiation poisoning progressed, but her hands remained steady on the controls. The final alignment approached as the Scourge fleet moved into position, drawn by the apparent vulnerability of the damaged human vessel. Chen's last transmission came through on all channels, her voice steady despite her failing body. "Remember us." The trap sprung, 7 suns pulsing in sequence, creating a subspace cascade that tore the Scourge fleet apart. The space between stars warped and twisted, swallowing the enemy vessels in a maelstrom of light and energy. In the blinding brilliance, the Retribution disappeared, its sacrifice ensuring the survival of billions. Admiral Kilera watched in silence, one hand clutching the empty flask Chen had given her as a final gesture. The human way of war was terrible, but in its terrible glory lay hope for the galaxy. Against direct orders and astronomical odds, Admiral Kilera led a search and rescue operation into the debris field left by the subspace cascade. The Federation Council had transmitted explicit instructions to return to capital space for debriefing, but the Admiral found herself unable to abandon the possibility, however remote, that survivors might remain. The probability of finding anything intact is 0.89%. Science Director Narration reminded her as they navigated the treacherous field of radiation and twisted metal. Even if the ship somehow survived, organic life couldn't withstand the radiation exposure. "Your calculations don't account for human determination," Hilera replied, her gaze fixed on the sensor displays. "I've seen them survive situations our models deemed impossible." Federation scientists had calculated recovery probability as statistically negligible, prompting the Council to declare the mission wasteful of resources needed elsewhere. High Counselor Zhuren himself had contacted Kilera's vessel, his ancient face lined with concern. "Admiral, while your sentiment is admirable, we cannot risk further assets on what is clearly a lost cause." Kilera had responded with uncharacteristic defiance. "They would search for us," she countered before terminating the transmission. Humanity wouldn't abandon their allies to probability calculations. For 3 days, the rescue flotilla combed the radiation-soaked wreckage, using specialized drones to investigate fragments too dangerous for ships to approach. Hope diminished with each passing hour as the search revealed only scattered debris and hull fragments twisted beyond recognition by the tremendous forces unleashed in the battle. On the 4th day, as Kilera contemplated the inevitability of retreat, Communications Officer Tellis detected something unusual, a faint, repeating pattern buried within the background radiation. It took the ship's A-17 minutes to isolate and identify the signal. Morse code, an ancient human communication method consisting of simple pulses that any receiver could detect. "They're broadcasting their coordinates," Tellis announced, her voice tinged with disbelief. "It's coming from within the most heavily irradiated section of the debris field." The rescue team located the Retribution's emergency bridge module, a reinforced compartment designed to eject during catastrophic ship failure. Federation engineers marveled at the simple yet effective technology, while their own vessels incorporated sophisticated escape mechanisms for individual crew members. Humans had designed their ship to preserve its command center and as many personnel as could reach it. Cutting through the sealed module revealed a scene that would forever change Kilera's understanding of humanity. Inside, 27 crew members had survived, including a critically injured Captain Chen. The compartment's limited life support systems had been modified to prioritize the captain's survival, with crew members taking rotational shifts to filter her blood through their own bodies, a crude but effective dialysis system using their healthier organs to cleanse her radiation-poisoned blood. Federation medical teams were stunned. The humans had no realistic chance of rescue, yet they fought to keep their captain alive despite their own catastrophic injuries and dwindling oxygen supplies. Why? Kilera asked the Retribution's first officer as medical drones stabilized his condition. The statistical probability of survival was virtually zero. Why expend your final resources on someone so badly injured? The officer's radiation-burned face formed a pained smile. Because she would have done the same for any of us. He gestured weakly toward the unconscious Chen, and because humans don't believe in no-win scenarios. During Chen's months-long recovery aboard the Federation medical station, Kilera visited daily, watching the human commander rebuild herself with stubborn determination. Federation medical technology could have grown Chen a new body, transferring her consciousness to an undamaged vessel, a common practice among the longer-lived species. Instead, Chen opted for rehabilitation, accepting cybernetic implants only where necessary and enduring excruciating physical therapy without complaint. Why not just clone a new body? Kilera asked during one of these sessions, genuinely curious about the human preference for preservation over replacement. Chen, struggling to stand on newly grafted leg muscles, met the Admiral's gaze with her one remaining natural eye. "These scars were earned protecting others," she said between labored breaths. "They remind us what we're fighting for, what price victory demands." She took another painful step forward. "And that some prices are worth paying." In that moment, Kilera understood something fundamental about humanity that no Federation analysis had captured. Their strength lay not in their technology or even their tactics, but in their unbreakable will to endure. 6 months after the Battle of Seven Sisters, the newly christened UES Phoenix took position as flagship of the combined defense fleet. The vessel incorporated technology from both civilizations, a synthesis never before achieved in the galaxy. Its sleek lines reflected Federation aesthetic sensibilities, while its reinforced hull and weapon systems spoke to human practicality. In the massive docking bay of Federation Central Station, dignitaries from 87 worlds gathered to witness the historic commissioning ceremony. The event marked more than the launch of a ship. It represented a fundamental shift in galactic politics and military doctrine. Captain Chen, now walking with a slight mechanical limp and sporting advanced cybernetics that enhanced rather than merely replaced her damaged body parts, stood alongside Admiral Kilera on the command deck. The contrast between them had softened. Chen's uniform now incorporated elements of Federation design, while Kilera wore a ceremonial blade gifted by human officers. "A year ago, I would have considered this impossible," Kilera remarked quietly as they watched the final preparations. "Our civilizations seemed too different to find common ground." Chen nodded, her remaining natural eye crinkling with amusement. "Nothing brings people together like a common enemy." She gestured toward a group of Federation engineers working seamlessly alongside human technicians. "Your science combined with our determination, your resources with our experience." High Counselor Chen approached, his ancient form supported by a levitation field. "Captain Chen," he acknowledged with newfound respect. "The Council has ratified the Defense Treaty. Human colonies will receive full Federation protection status, and your remaining ships are being retrofitted with our technology as we speak. And our warfare tactics are being taught at Federation Academy," Chen added. "Though I understand the Ethics Committee required some adjustments to the curriculum." The ceremony commenced with representatives from all corners of the galaxy bearing witness to the unprecedented alliance. As Chen delivered her address, her words were broadcast to human settlements and Federation worlds alike. "The Scourge believed they had destroyed us," she stated, her amplified voice filling the vast chamber. "They were wrong. Humanity survived in the shadows, growing stronger, preparing. What they fail to understand is that humans don't break under pressure. We transform. She gestured toward the Phoenix visible through the station's transparent dome. This vessel represents something new in the galaxy, not just Federation, not just human, but something stronger than either alone. As Chen continued her speech, long-range sensors detected more Scourge vessels approaching from 3 vectors instead of 1. The tactical display updated silently, visible only to command staff. Federation officials began to tense, whispered concerns spreading through their ranks. Chen noticed the changing display and smiled, a predator's expression that chilled and reassured simultaneously. Without breaking stride in her address, she nodded to her crew who moved with practiced efficiency to battle stations. "This is what humanity prepared for," she said, her voice remaining calm as the tactical alerts spread throughout the station. "While you hoped for peace, we planned for war. Now we do both together." Admiral Kilera stepped forward to stand shoulder to shoulder with the human captain. "The combined fleet stands ready," she announced. "All ships prepare for immediate deployment." Human colony ships had already begun transporting refugees from threatened systems, while Federation scientists adapted human medical techniques to save lives once considered lost. Emergency protocols that would have taken weeks of debate now activated within minutes, efficiency born of necessity and human influence. As the new fleet moved to engage the approaching threat, Federation observers noted something unprecedented in their millions of years of recorded history. Species across the galaxy setting aside ancient differences, inspired by humanity's defiant stand. Former enemies offered ships and resources to the combined force, unified by the example set by the supposedly primitive humans. Captain Chen and Admiral Kilera boarded the Phoenix together, their complementary strengths now the cornerstone of galactic defense. The price in iron and blood would be high, but for the first time since the Scourge appeared, the galaxy believed in victory. Humanity had not just survived. They had given the gift of their warrior spirit to a civilization that had forgotten how to fight. And in doing so, they had transformed from the ghosts of a dead world into the saviors of countless living ones.